This is a lesson on the benefits of practicing slowly. This lesson is for Atharv from Victoria. Atharv is 8 years old and studying with my good friend Natasha. So although the tips are directed at Atharv, everyone can follow the lesson for free and just pick up the tips. So the first thing I'm going to say is that when you're studying with a teacher, you should always listen to their advice. They know what's best for you, so you should be listening to their guidance as to what speed you should be practicing. But before we dive into all the ideas that I'm going to suggest, let's just make a clear definition between playing the guitar and practicing the guitar. When we practice the guitar, we are trying to improve our playing and play at a high quality level. In order to do that, we often have to play very slowly in order to improve. That's what playing and practicing like a pro really is. It's going at a speed where we can play at an ultra high quality level. And usually that means the slower you go, the higher quality your playing will be. So that's why we want to practice very slowly. Playing the guitar is really just kind of picking up your instrument and like playing your music. It might be very enjoyable, but it's not the same thing as practicing your music. So clear definition between playing the guitar and practicing the guitar. If your teacher is saying practice for a certain amount of time per day, then we must be practicing for a certain amount of time of day, not just picking up a guitar and playing. So what does it mean to practice slowly, and also what are the benefits? Well, I think the benefits are really wide-ranging. Like I said, the slower you practice, the higher quality your playing can be. But that doesn't mean that we have to practice just at one slow speed. We can practice at multiple different slow speeds. So like 3 different slow speeds in order to make it still fun to practice. We don't just have to do like, oh, I have to practice slowly, what a drag. No, that's not it. We can actually practice in different ways to spice it up a little bit. So if we're working on a piece like the Allegro from my method book, maybe your goal, maybe the tempo that you want to play it at is quite fast, because Allegro kind of means, relatively quickly. We might want to play at that speed, but that's not what we want to practice the piece as. When we go home and practice, we want to go really slowly. So I would recommend splitting it up into 3 different tempos for practicing at home. The first tempo would be ultra slow. When you practice ultra slow, you can focus on each note to make sure that you are playing each note like a pro. And this is very important, is that you can play like a professional, like a really good musician, if you play ultra slowly. So if we go ultra slow, we can focus on each note. So when I practice at that speed, I can practice each note like a pro. So that's what you want to do, is make sure you can play each note really well. And I would do this every day you practice. Practice that slowly, at least once or twice, so slow that you can focus on each note, playing it in time, having a nice round, clear sound on each note. We might not be playing really quickly right now, but we're playing really well. And that's the important thing. We can also check other things like, are we sitting correctly? Are our shoulders relaxed? What about all those other tips your teacher has mentioned to you in terms of how to sit and technique and how to hold your hands, playing on your fingertips? There's so many things to think about. And at this speed, we can actually think about it for each note. Playing each note really well with good technique. So we could practice at like an ultra slow tempo. Then we can practice at like a medium slow tempo. Practicing at a medium slow tempo might allow us to think more about the phrase, thinking about maybe growing through this phrase, letting it crescendo a little bit, focusing more on legato connection between the notes instead of each note. And then we could go, from the next part of our practice, we could go a little bit faster, but not too much. remember, your goal might be to practice really quickly or to play it really quickly, but that's not how we'll practice. We're going to practice it ultra slow, like way slower than you'd ever imagine, and then slowly, and then kind of like a medium slow tempo, because all the different slow tempos will allow us to focus on different things, but also make sure that we're playing well and improving. Because again, remember, the difference between playing the guitar and practicing the guitar. When we practice, we are trying to improve and play at a high quality level. Now, after a few weeks of practicing at a high quality level, we can slowly start raising the tempo, and your teacher can be your guide for that, especially for youth students. Let your teacher guide you as to how fast you should be increasing the speed at home. If for everyone else, like for adults that are practicing at home, go slower than you think. It's always should be slower than you think. We want to play really at a high quality level instead of quickly, so we must always be reevaluating, what we're doing. So just as a general recap, the difference between playing and practicing, that is very important. When you practice, and when your teacher says, go practice for that certain amount of time per day, you have to practice. That means maybe going at those 3 slow tempos, for the piece. And occasionally you can play the guitar too. Of course you can. You can enjoy the guitar, but you should practice first. So improve your skills, practice, and then when you're done your practice, play a little bit to make sure you're enjoying yourself and whatnot. But it's that improvement that's so important. And then you could just split it up into like 3 slow tempos, but all of them are going to be way slower than you want to, than your goal is. And youth students will often say, well, I want to play like a pro. I want to play at the same speed as the pros. Well, pros don't think like that. Pros play at a high quality level, which could be fast or it could be slow. It doesn't really matter. A pro knows that the only way to perform well is to play at a high quality level, which often means, bringing that tempo down to a reasonable speed. And of course, when we practice, it has to be even slower so we can focus on all those important tips. So I hope you found that useful. Make sure you listen to your teacher's advice. You have a very good teacher and, years of experience that they're trying to pass on to you. So try to absorb that advice, and Natasha can guide you through what tempo you should be going.